Hello everybody, welcome back to Future Fiber. This is your host Jenny, and today we have another podcast episode where I will talk about the stuff that I've been knitting in the past couple of weeks. I also have a fun little giveaway for this video, so if you would like to know the details of that, stick around till the end. I will also put a chapter on it, YouTube chapter mark on it, so if you want to just skip to that you can too, but stick around until the end and we'll talk about it. Today I have two, I think, finished objects, and then I have some new whips. I don't know if they're new cast-ons necessarily. I think they're all old projects that are coming out of the woodworks now that it's like a reasonable temperature outside for me to knit with wool again. Let's start with the finished objects. I probably should have put this on today, but I wore this for the past 3 days, so it felt a little stupid to wear this again today. You guys don't know that, but in my time, I wore this 3 days in a row. The first finished object I have is the Wānaka sweater, and this is a pattern by Andie Knits, and it's a Henley neck sweater that is knit up with Hikoo Cobasi DK in the colorway Bubblegum. And I used in total 11 skeins of this yarn, and I knit the size 4. It smells kind of good. The last time you saw this, you know what, let's just put this on for the view. Okay, so this is what this looks like on. I have a pretty big shirt underneath, so it's not like the perfect fit, but the sleeves come down to here, and if I button this on top, the neck sits like this. And this is the armhole depth, and my real armpit is over here. I am overall very pleased with this make. As a quick recap, I think it's a pretty good beginner's project once you've gotten the hang of doing like drop shoulder construction. And then if you've done double knit button bands like at least once, or honestly you could learn it with this too. The buttonholes are a little trickier because they're vertical buttonholes and not horizontal buttonholes, but it's not hard, and the finishing details I think makes this look very nice. And I was originally a little bit skeptical, like, do I really want to do this folded over neckband? But I'm glad that I did it because I think having this adds a little bit more structure and stability to the garment, and as well as like visual balance. Like, I think if you just had the double knitted button bands and then you didn't have a folded over neckline, it might look not as balanced as this. So I didn't make any modifications. I knitted size 4 pretty much straight up. I think the only like unintentional modification that I might have made is just like the sleeve decrease. They tell you to decrease like every couple of rows. I basically read it once and then just YOLO it as I do the sleeves. So that's different, but everything else is pretty much to the T pattern. And it turned out very well. I think I knit the bottom a little bit longer than what the pattern suggests, but I think I could have gone a little bit longer, but then I didn't have enough yarn, so that, yeah, I didn't have much of a choice in that matter. I actually had to purchase more yarn twice. I've decided at this point that I will not beat myself up for my miscalculations, and I will just do it. And it's kind of a bummer that I had to pay for shipping twice. It could have been thrice, but I managed to buy the last 2 skeins of this yarn at my local yarn store, which I went to Cleo's yarn shop in Brooklyn and picked up yarn there in person. Their new space is really nice. They have a lot of tables to sit down and knit on, so I would give that a go if you're ever in Bushwick. It is what it is. Maybe I'm just bad at calculation. I really did think I bought enough. I had like 8-9 skeins when I first started knitting this, and I thought that would have been enough because each skein has like 160 yards, but I think I ended up knitting a size larger than I originally planned. This is a size 4. I was going to knit a size 3, so maybe that's why I didn't have enough yarn. But I'm not too concerned. Okay, so and another thing with, I can't speak for all colors, but at least with Bubblegum for Hikoo Cobasi DK, the arms, the sleeves are different than the body in terms of dye lot, but they look exactly the same. In my opinion. I mean, you guys can be the judge. But I think they look the same, so I also liked that about the yarn, that I didn't have to worry too much about the dye lot. I'm not really that sensitive to dye lots, honestly, so I am not a good marker of that, but yeah, this was a very pleasant experience. It went really quickly. I like the yarn. I like that I can throw this in the wash, and also put it in the dryer. Overall, a plus, a very successful project, and I think this is one of, I can't really think of anything I would change, honestly. Another modification that I did do is the inside collar. I did do a crochet slip stitch all around the neckline because I wore this out once and I noticed that it was kind of like stretching out this way, which makes sense given the yarn, and the yarn also has a bit of stretch to it. So to counteract that, I did the slip stitch, and then also once I did that, I saw that the neckline was kind of like still standing up because the ribbing had kind of stretched out. So to bring it back, I used my favorite tactic of elastic thread and then just threaded it through the neckband, so that creates this. And I think it looks nice now. It doesn't look that stretched out. The shoulder, I'm kind of worried about it getting long, getting kind of stretched out over time, but I think I could also do the same thing where I do slip stitches, and then maybe that'll fix everything. So that's what I'm thinking. This sweater is the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit. It's knit with feisty fibers, 100% Canadian wool. I stole it back from my boyfriend because I knitted it for him for Christmas and then he doesn't wear it. So I steal it back pretty frequently. So that's the story on this. And let's talk about the next finished object. It sucks. I am balanced precariously on 2 cushions right now, so if I make farting noises with the couch, you have to understand. Out of all the sunny days of this week, I decided today was the best day to film this, and it is not sunny, so I have to sit as close to the window as possible. Yeah, I made socks. They're DK weight, ugly socks. I posted a Instagram story of these before they were blocked, and people generally seem to agree that this is like one of the ugliest socks that I've ever made. Somebody sent, I will put a picture here because I got a great big giggle. I was chortling. Somebody sent me a picture of a chicken McNugget, the boot-shaped one, and they were like, yo, it looks like that. And I'm like, dude, it's true, it's a chicken McNugget. It's a boot. Yeah, this was horrible, but it fits my foot, and that's what matters. They're DK weight socks, and I just picked up whatever leftover yarn I had, and then held it together, 2 sock yarns, held it together, and just YOLO'd the pattern, pretty much. The starting stitch count was 48 stitches, and I think I should have not done 48. I should have done 44 or 40 for DK weight socks because these are very wide. These are blocked, and they were blocked on sock blockers, so the width is wide because of that as well, but even without doing that, it was really wide. And then, so I think I should have done maybe the entire sock in rib, or decrease the number of stitches overall. So I knit these on, I think they're actually different needles, because this I knit on 3.5, and I think this was a 3mm. That's why they're different. If you look, they look pretty much the same, but this one's a little bit skinnier than this one, so that's kind of my fault too. I don't know. They didn't really have a lot of thought into it. I just wanted to knit these because it was getting cold and my feet were freezing. So I just really wanted like cozy room socks, and then this is what I came up with. And I think the color itself is like not bad. Like the marling is pretty cute. This is actually 3 different scrap sock yarns that I had. So I had some Hobie sock yarn. It's the wool dot one, I think, in like blue, some sort of blue dot. And then I had this what color is this? It's not turquoise. But this dark green blue yarn, blue-green yarn, is left over from making a pair of mittens for my friend last year, and I believe it was a alpaca sock yarn. So that's that and this one. And then I ran out of the Hobie yarn, so I switched over to, you can tell here that it's this bottom part is more green than this top part. It's because the bottom is held together with a different sock yarn. I think I got it from the advent calendar that I bought 3 years ago from Biscotti Yarns. That's why they are different. They are not the same, but they serve their purpose. And I obviously didn't weave in all the ends or whatever, but they are what they are. I think this first sock, it's just, I didn't knit enough in the foot itself. That's why it looks so weird. Why it looks like a Christmas stocking and not like a sock. But it's not that big of a deal when I put it on because it is so wide. Like there's enough room for the sock to stretch vertically. And the heel method, I knit these top down, and then the heel method that I usually use is German short row heel. Because that's the only one I can remember is the primary reason. That's it, really. I could have knit these toe up, but then I've never knit in this kind of gauge where it's 2 sock yarns held together. I've done like mohair and sock yarn. That's obviously a different fabric than this. So that's why I started top down, just to see if it'll like go over my legs. And it did. It just came out to be too big. I am wearing a pair of socks right now, but if I put the socks on top, it's like that. There has to be a better way to show this. For free? Alright, well, there's that. Ugly socks. Ugly room socks. Listen, I say room socks, but I'll probably end up wearing these out at some point, so it is what it is. Those are the 2 finished objects. Let's talk about whips. So I have an exciting one, and I should have put these on bigger needles. It's my colorwork sweater. It's my baby's first colorwork sweater. It's not my actual first, like I've done a little bit of colorwork before, but this is my first time actually like doing it in the round, like all proper and all of that. So I am pretty excited about how this is turning out. This is the Aureliano, and it's by Claudia Quintanilla, and it's from her book, Memory Lane. The yarn and the book and pattern were gifted, but this video is not sponsored. I am using the exact same yarn as used in the sample, so it's Ito Sensai, and I've talked about it in my last podcast episode about my review of the yarn, but as far as mohair goes, I really like how this feels. I am not a big mohair fan, as we've talked about many times, but this one definitely feels less irritating out of the ones that I've tried so far. And I don't know, my tension I already know is horrible, but you would never be able to tell. Well, maybe you can because you're a better knitter than I, but you wouldn't be able to tell from this fabric right here because the fuzz hides my horrible mistakes. That's a plus. Although I think doing color work in mohair is kind of like playing a very dangerous game because frogging it is going to be nigh impossible. And so I have to be very careful when I'm knitting this project. I have to be very mindful of what I'm doing, and then I have to pay attention because I don't want to mess up, you know? I say this, but I've already messed up. So at this point, I've completed 1 pattern repeat. So we have the 2x2 colors. We have these like checkerboard almost pattern up here, And then we have the bow or ribbon-ish X pattern here on the bottom in orange. And that makes up one pattern repeat. But I don't know if you can tell. Here, each of these dots or squares, they're meant to be 3 rows long. But up here, that's only 2 rows. So I already messed up. But, you know, I think at that point, you just gotta cut your losses. I'm just gonna keep going. I don't think it's that noticeable. It's not the worst mistake I could have made. So I'm okay with it. And then the increases. I think this is something that I forgot about yoke type sweaters. Each increase round is so stressful because you have to make sure that you end up with the correct number of increases at the end of that round, and you're increasing just so much throughout that entire round that it's just you have to like keep counting, and I'm not really good with that. I like zoning out when I knit, so it's a little stressful, but overall I'm really pleased with how it's turning out. It's gonna take me forever, and I've come to terms with it. I'm going to enjoy my time. Although I will say, this is an interesting project because I like the knitting experience of watching the color come alive. I'm like, oh, color. But I do not like working with the mohair, and that is how it is. It's just, I think you could use other yarns and achieve probably not the same result because the mohair has like a halo and fuzz to it and lightness. But if you used a very fluffier, some sort of yarn, wool, I think it would be a much easier experience. I do feel like I am kind of wrestling the mohair a bit with every stitch. I have to kind of like yank it so that it doesn't pill into itself. So that's a little bit upsetting, but otherwise, very fun. This has definitely increased my confidence level in like attempting color work. And then the pattern itself is not a very long repeat, so you don't have to catch floats, or at least I didn't. If you're also knitting this and you're like, Jenny, you're doing that wrong, you can tell me. I can't guarantee that I will follow your suggestion because I don't want to catch floats. So I would recommend this for a beginner, but use a different yarn. You have to knit it double-stranded, mohair double-stranded, and then if you're doing color work, and then each of these, like, they tangle with each other. So if people have suggestions on yarn management, I would love to hear it because it's a mess here. That's the first whip, and the rest are not new. They're old cast-ons. They're old cast-ons that are rising from their graves from the chill box. And the first one is the Thin Sweater by Wool and Beyond. It's knit up with yarn that I got from Yarn Farm Kingston. I think it's a local yarn, like local sheep yarn, so I don't have information about that. You can see that I've finished knitting the body, but now that I'm looking at it, I might want to extend the body, so maybe it's not over. Anyway, I'm working on the sleeves right now. I just started, and I am going to switch out the needle because I realized that I am somebody who cannot knit sleeves with like magic loop or anything anymore. I just can't do it. I've been spoiled with short tip needles. So we're gonna replace these with shorties, and then I will get cranking on it. But this is the progress so far. It looks really short, and that's because I did not account for the roll up. But I think if once I like block it out a little bit, maybe it'll roll a little less. I did do a mid-project block, so you can see that it's very even now, or as even as my uneven stitches can be in the body. And then on the bottom is unblocked. That's why the stitches are still a little jank, but that's the update on this guy. It fits really well. I was afraid that it'll be like too tight or too small. That was an unjustified worry, but yeah, very good. Very good, very good. And it's got the X. I do think I'll have enough yarn. I was kind of panicking because I thought I lost the last skein of yarn that I had for this project, but then I found it. I found it. I had to clean my entire craft room, but it was worth it. So that's that. All right, we have our last work in progress. And this is another guy that I pulled out of the freezer. And it's the Waffle Loop Neckwarmer. Waffle Neckwarmer. Waffle Loop Neckwarmer. It's by the designer Otherloops. This is knit up with Waffle Loop Neckwarmer. This is the back panel of that. This is a pattern by Otherloops. And I am at the 25 centimeter mark of 40. So I have 15 more centimeters to go in this waffle check pattern. And I don't actually know if I will have enough to go all the way to 40 centimeters. And I have one more ball, so I do have to be a little bit sparing with the yarn. So maybe I will just finish using whatever yarn I have left, and then I will move on to the front of the garment. This is knit up with a worsted weight yarn that I got from a alpaca farm in Martha's Vineyard last year, and it's made from an alpaca whose name is Revelation, and apparently he is a prize-winning alpaca. Anyway, it was expensive. But I like how it's turning out. I really like this waffle pattern. I know Otherloops also has like a sweater in this waffle pattern, or was it a cardigan? Anyways, I also want to like maybe knit that. But I found that with this waffle pattern, once I put it down and then pick it back up, it's not as easy for me to pick back up because I can't tell where I am in the pattern. So it takes me a couple of, it takes me a little bit to get going on this. That's why it's a little slow going, but I'm almost there with the back, so I do want to finish this for this winter. I think it'll be a nice accessory to have. I am always in need of more winter accessories. I do want to knit another scarf this year, or some sort of like neck head thing. I've seen those like balaclavas with like scarves attached to it, so maybe that's in order for this year. But that's another one that I've kind of like taken out of cold storage. This one I started really getting back into it yesterday because I went to go knit at a cafe with some friends. So that's what I did with this guy. And we're chipping away. I don't have any new exciting cast-ons because, well, I guess the socks were a impulse cast-on, but I actually finished those. So let's talk about the thing that you've maybe skipped the chapters for and or like watched the entirety of this video so far for. And that is this book. This book was sent to me from Inside Editions to just like read and have and review. I was not paid to mention this in this video, but they accidentally sent me 2 copies of this Gilmore Girls knitting book, so I wanted to send one of you guys one. This is open worldwide. Just leave a comment down below and we'll get it sorted. All right, Gilmore Girls book. So this is a book this is the official Gilmore Girls knitting book. They also have a bunch of other TV show or like media-based knitting books. So this book, there are 5 chapters and they're separated into different categories of knitting objects. So we have hats, scarves, like neck things. And then the 3rd chapter is socks and mitts. And then there's chapter 4 of garments. And then 5 is decor and gifts. So when I first received this, I don't know why I thought the entire book would be just sweaters. But I've actually never watched Gilmore Girls, so I'm not the best person to review the patterns in here. But I guess my understanding of Gilmore Girls, and also from like my understanding of Connecticut, has been that the entirety of this book was just going to be like sweaters, Aran sweaters or cable sweaters. That is not the case. So you have a bunch of different variety of things that you could do, and it won't scream Gilmore Girls. Let me mention a couple of my favorites from this book. I think the first one that I want to mention, I think this is the first pattern in the book, is Suki's bandana. It just is this kind of like triangle shaped bandana that you wear around your head or maybe around your neck as a kerchief. And I also like that they have a little page where they talk about the inspiration for these. So if you are a Gilmore Girls fan, then you'll have a little bit of reading material. I think these kind of like bandana things are kind of trendy now. Maybe that's just Korean Instagram, but I think I've seen a lot of these, so I might knit one as a little, like, to put it around my head and my ears for the winter, a little babushka looking banana. So I like that one. The rest of the hats are pretty concentrated around color work. I think there's a lot of color work in this. It's probably one of the easiest ways to like put in motifs relating to a show, but I also really liked this one because I like tartan check kind of stuff, and this one is Rory's Prep School Cowl. This is knit in the round, so you do all the color work in the round, which probably makes it a little bit easier than trying to do this flat. It's supposed to be reminiscent of Rory's school skirt, I guess. I really liked that one from the scarves section. And the last one I'll talk about is from the garments section. It's Rory's Argyle vest. I think Argyle is also kind of a timeless look, I guess, next to cables. So I've wanted to knit Argyle, but I think a lot of the times Argyle is 3 colors instead of 2, and this one is bicolor, so I think this will be a little bit easier to manage than having 3 separate colors that I need to think about. I will say, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never watched Gilmore Girls, but my understanding of Gilmore Girls is that I expected a cable, like all over cable Aran sweater to be in here, but they did not include that one. I think they lean towards like motif-based things, like, or very directly mentioning Gilmore Girls, like this one. This has the cafe. If you were looking for a cable sweater pattern in here, that you might be disappointed. But otherwise, if you're a general fan of the show and you want to have some options for basic hat patterns and color work ideas, I think this will be a cute book. And also there's like dolls that you can make, so maybe if you have a Gilmore Girl fan in your life, you can make them little Rory doll. Okay, it's getting darker, so I turned on the lamp. We're almost at the end of the video though, so we gotta just pull through. Let's talk about another very, very exciting acquisition for me. So a couple videos ago, I talked about a list of all the things that I had to talk myself out of buying. Well, do I feel like a poser now because I bought the C-Knits Koshitsu. Haha. I've let the voice in my head win, and I've bought the Koshitsu needle set from C-Knits. And the inside looks like this. I mean, the case is very cute and functional and pretty and yada yada yada. I bought the... I'll put in the specific information, but it was not the most expensive set they had, but it was still, like, it has all the needles, so it's missing some because someone are on the projects already, but I don't know how much my review will help, given that there's a bunch of other people who have reviewed these needles kind of in depth. But to give you a light overview of what I think of it, I overall really like them. I think they are much better suited for projects that work with fibers that can kind of hold themselves together. So I wouldn't use these with mohair yarn, and I wouldn't use these with pencil roving, like unspun. I say this because the connector here, I don't know if you can tell, but that section there is not completely like smoothly tapering. It's a little bit stepped. So I found that with yarns, especially if I'm knitting kind of like with fluffy yarns that kind of don't have their own structure, I am having to kind of struggle in pushing the stitches towards the tip of the needle because they kind of get caught over here. So while the wire is really flexible and thin, and that can be a positive. I wouldn't say that it's a positive for all yarn types. So while I really like them, they feel really nice. They're very smooth. On the needle itself, there's nothing that really catches. And I really like that the needle information is kind of like laser cut into the needle itself, because that's my biggest gripe with Knit Pro needles, is that they all rub off and I don't know what size they are. And I have to like be like blind poo just like looking at the needle to figure out what size they are. So I really like that about this, but it's not perfect. Is it worth the price? You be the judge. Honestly, I do like them. I just don't buy maybe the entire set if you're not sure. Maybe buy like the needle in the size that you use the most, and then work with it from there. I like them. They're not for everybody or every project. I still think maybe my like most favorite, most versatile needles would be the Knit Pro Gingers with the newer cables. Knit Pro Gingers with the newer cables that are more flexible and not like with the crappy plastic cord that kind of stays coiled. I think that's still my favorite because they are very reliable. They're very smooth. They're very hard, and I guess with these I'm a little afraid that I'll break them, because I mean I've broken needles before because I sat on them, but these feel a little bit more fragile because they are bamboo and they're not like condensed birch, is it, for the gingers? So if you are a little bit heavy-handed, maybe this is also like not a good option for you, but I really overall do like it, and I will probably use them a lot for knitting with wool. I think that's like the best combination, really. For example, this project, I originally had these on the C-knit needles, but with this I had to do what I mentioned, where I had to like really struggle to pull the stitches across the needle from the cord. But with these are on Knit Pro needles, one is ginger and one is not. I just couldn't find the magic set. So with these, you can see the stitches move across very easily. I did not find that to be the case with the C-knit needles. So that's how I feel about that. But overall, I'm really pleased with that. I like that I have them. And I also like that I have more needles, because these, I only have one pair of 3mm, and I only have one pair of, I think I have 2.75 in here as well. 2.5. I also only have one pair of 2.5. So I have a little bit more variety, and I can have a couple more projects on the go, which might not be a good thing for me, but you know, it is what it is. So that's my big boy acquisition. And I got this because I am actually starting a new job next week. I was unemployed, shall we say, and I got this as a present for myself for bagging that new big girl job. So with the new job, I don't know what my situation is going to be like. I do go in 3 days a week. I used to work fully remote before, so my time to knit and film videos will be a little bit more impacted. So I don't know what my schedule is going to look like with that, but regardless, I am glad to be making money and employed again. So that's why I got myself this as a pat on the back. Lastly, I got some yarn for myself and for a gift knit. So I originally started with this, and I bought this from Cleo's yarn shop. Of course, I couldn't just go in for one thing. I left with something that I did not plan for. And this was on sale, but this is a fingering weight, 100% Cormo wool. And it was hand dyed in Brooklyn, New York by HelloMello Handspun. So they spin and dye like locally sourced fibers. I think that's their whole thing, but I really like this green. I don't think I'm like a big green person. Like I've never really felt like I wanted to wear green before, but I saw this and I think it's also like kind of trendy now, like this Kelly green. So I was struck by its color, and I bought it. Of course, without planning what I'm going to do with it. I thought I was going to have enough. So this is 400 yards. So I was like, okay, maybe they only had 2 of these. If they had 3, I would have bought 3, but they only had 2. So I was like, maybe I can knit a little little cardigan. No, I do not have enough for a cardigan. What was I thinking? So I swatched this with 4mm needles because this, it says it's fingering weight and I can see how it is, but then I don't know, I felt it in my vibes that this could be like sport or even DK. So I swatched it, it looks fine. It doesn't look too see-through. So I wanted to find another yarn to kind of like, not hold it together with, but I wanted to make some sort of striped sweater. So I got Brooklyn Tweed Loft. This is in the colorway Fossil, and I have 3 skeins of this. So those two together, I think I will make some sort of striped sweater. I just have to decide on what kind of striped sweater. I don't want just like a basic drop shoulder. I wanted to maybe like make like a zipper sweater type thing. Like the lapel sample I think is green and white, but it's not the right weight for that. So it might be something else. We'll have to think about that a little bit, but it's going to be a cream white-ish plus green, Kelly green sweater. So Brooklyn Tweed Loft and HelloMello Handspun. And then because we are in November and I realized that I approximately have a little over a month to do Christmas knitting. I'm going to only do maybe 1 Christmas knitting. I don't know, we'll see what happens, but I'm getting, I don't know, my life this year has been a mess, so I am not really deeply planning anything, but I wanted to continue the tradition. As in my last video, I mentioned that I wanted to knit a sweater for my boyfriend this year as well, so I got Berroco vintage worsted weight. And that's the air purifier going. Just ignore that. This is in the colorway Acai. Acai. It's Acai, right? But it doesn't really give. It's blue. I don't understand why. Like, isn't Acai more like berry colored? Isn't it more pink? So I don't really understand that. This reads more blueberry to me, but this is the color that I got of Berroco vintage, and I am probably going to end up knitting the Wider by In Kim, and that was in Lina magazine issue 13, I believe. But I have more than enough yarn skeins this time. I bought 13 of these. I bought a lot, so if there's not enough of this, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But Berroco vintage is pretty easy to buy online, so it'll be alright. I made sure this time, I was like, okay, I need like 13. So I'm pretty sure about 13, but I gotta count. But that's that. I think that's everything. So once again, I am giving away a copy of the Gilmore Girls book. It is open worldwide. Check description box and pinned comment for entering instructions, as well as like whatever I said, whatever editing Jenny said for entry and details. Yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Like, daylight savings is over in the United States, so now it gets dark at 3 p.m. basically. That's why we're enveloped in darkness currently. I will see you guys in the next one. Keep warm if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. If you're not, enjoy the weather.